Rising tide. The first time I met Marco Di Benedetto, I was fighting a category for hurricane-triggered wildfire on the outskirts of Tampa with my crew, when the evacuation order came down and he refused to leave because 3 families were still trapped in a flooded neighborhood 2 blocks away. The storm had hit 6 hours ago. Wind gusts at 145 miles per hour, storm surge pushing Atlantic water inland faster than the drainage systems could handle it. Hurricane Helios, they'd named it, and it was living up to the apocalypse. My crew, 5 of us, from the Hillsborough County Fire Department's Wildland unit, were supposed to be gone already. But somewhere around hour 4, the dry conditions and the storm surge had conspired to start fires. Multiple fires. The kind that spread in dry season fuel beds faster than evacuation routes could clear. I was hosing down a residential street in Seminole Heights when I saw him, a guy in a Neon County emergency management vest, soaking wet, muddy up to his thighs, running against the wind with a bullhorn in one hand and a child in the other. Roads blocked. He was shouting at me. I-275 entrance is flooded. We need alternate routes or these people are trapped. I cut the water. Who are you? Marco Di Benedetto, County Response Coordinator. The neighborhood south of Hillsborough. The evacuation wasn't finished when the surge hit. 12 families, some of them elderly, some mobility impaired. They are removing on foot and they need a clear route to a shelter, or they not going to make it. The wind tried to knock me sideways. Every route heading east is either underwater or on fire. Then we go north. He was already moving, gesturing for people huddled in the rain to follow. The child he'd been holding was maybe 7, terrified, clinging to his jacket. Come on, you have equipment. I have people who need moving. What's your name? Ryan Walsh. Okay, Ryan Walsh. I'm Marco. Help me. There wasn't time to argue. I radioed my crew to hold position on a cleared perimeter and followed him back into the neighborhood he'd been evacuating. The water was thigh-deep in some places, warm from the Atlantic, moving with terrifying intention. Wind was screaming through the palm trees, bending them like grass. The fires I could see in the distance were reflected in the floodwater orange light dancing across black liquid, beautiful and horrifying. How many people? I asked. Started with 40. Got 28 out the first route before it went under. 12 still sheltering in place. Old people mostly. Won't leave without belongings. Won't leave without pets. He didn't sound judgmental about it, just factual. I've been going back and forth in a commandeered bass boat for 2 hours. Where are they? Community center on 22nd. It has higher elevation, but we need to get them to real shelter before the eye passes. Once it does, the backside of this storm hits and the wind shifts. That flooding's going to get worse before it gets better. We reached them on, foot 12 people in and around the Seminole Heights Community Center, water lapping at the foundation, climbing steadily. An elderly woman was sitting in a wheelchair in the parking lot. An old man had 4 canvas bags of belongings stacked around him. A middle-aged couple was holding a cat carrier in a bird cage, looking completely lost. Marco went into immediate action, calm and efficient. Okay, listen, I know this is terrifying.
I know.
You don't want to leave. But Ryan here is a firefighter with the county, and I'm emergency response. And we need everyone on foot or in a chair to move north right now. We're going to get you to Hillsborough Medical Center. It's got backup generators, food, water, safety. But we need to move in the next 10 minutes before the wind shifts again. Understood? I helped load the elderly woman's wheelchair into what remained of a pushcart, secured her belongings on top, started organizing people into a loose group, calculating distances, routes, timing. The fire on the horizon was growing closer. Smoke was mixing with rain in a way that made breathing painful. Why are you still here? I asked Marco as we worked. He was helping the man with the canvas bags, organizing the load so it was actually movable, because I was coordinating this evacuation. Wasn't leaving until everyone was gone. That's not protocol. No, he agreed.
Oh.
But it's the right call. The wind picked up another notch. One of the palm trees went over near the community center, crashing across the parking lot. People screamed. Move, I said, louder. Everyone move now. North on 22nd. Then we head toward the medical center. Marco, you take point with the mobile people. I'll take the wheelchair. What happened next was less organized evacuation and more controlled chaos. We moved through water that kept getting deeper, through wind that kept getting stronger. An old woman grabbed my arm and told me about her grandson serving in the Navy and "Ain't that nice of him?" "Yes, ma'am, very nice. Let's keep moving." The man with the bird and the cat kept apologizing for the belongings. Marco stayed at the front, navigating, keeping people focused on forward motion instead of panic. Around minute 7, the fire jumped across an intersection ahead of us. Orange wall, sudden and alive, cutting off our direct route. The smell of burning vegetation and melting asphalt became overwhelming. People stopped moving, froze. "Okay," I said, my firefighter brain kicking in. "We're diverting." "Marco, there's a fire break about 2 blocks east. It's going to be deeper water, but the fire won't have fuel. Can we get them there?" He didn't hesitate. "Yes, follow me." The water was up to waist deep now. An old man couldn't manage it, so I hitched him on my shoulder. He weighed maybe 160 pounds in his clothes, not bad, and pushed on. Marco had the elderly woman's wheelchair in one hand and the hand of a terrified teenage girl in the other, moving with complete certainty like he wasn't wading through floodwater in a hurricane toward a raging wildfire. "Tell me something true," I shouted to him over the wind. He looked back at me, impossible to hear, but reading my lips. "What?" "Tell me something true about yourself." "I'm terrified," he shouted back, and somehow that made it better. We broke through the fire break at minute 12. Clear air, no flames, just wind and rain and water. Behind us, the wildfire was a contained front, dangerous but navigable. People were breathing. Nobody was panicking anymore because we'd made it through the worst. 5 more minutes to the medical center, Marco called. 50 meters, I promise. We did it in 4. The hospital staff had their doors open, generators humming, a triage tent set up in the protected south entrance. Nurses rushed out to help us get the evacuees inside, dry them off, get them assessed. Someone got me a blanket. Someone got Marco coffee. We stood in the covered entrance, soaking wet, watching the hurricane rage outside. The medical center had massive reinforced windows, and through them, we could see the wind literally bend the streetlights into new shapes. "That was insane," Marco said quietly. "That was protocol," I replied. "You don't leave people behind." "I mean with you." He turned to look at me. In the fluorescent lights of the hospital entrance, I could see him clearly for the first time, dark hair plastered to his forehead, warm brown eyes that had been making tactical decisions for hours but were now just ... looking at me. "I don't usually get help in the field. I coordinate response. I don't usually have someone who just ... understood what needed to happen and did it. I don't usually have someone who refuses to leave people behind," I said. "In my experience, most people will save their own skin." "Yeah, well," he pushed hair off his face. "That's not my style. It's never been my style." A nurse came by and asked if we needed medical evaluation. Both said no. But she brought us towels anyway and warm blankets, and after about 40 minutes, we'd stopped shivering. "I'm Marco," he said, extending a hand even though we'd already exchanged names in the chaos of an evacuation. Ryan, I took it, held it longer than a handshake really warranted. "You live in Tampa?" "Born and raised." "Third-generation firefighter." My grandmother came from Jamaica in 1965. My grandfather was with the fire department before integration was even fully settled. My mom's a nurse. I grew up on both sides of emergency medicine. I don't know why I was telling him my whole family tree. Maybe because we just saved 12 people together in a hurricane, and my brain chemistry had fundamentally altered. Ybor City, he said. Italian side of my family owns a restaurant there. Di Benedetto's. Been there since 1974. My dad still does the sauce the way my Nonna taught him. And my mom runs the front of house. He smiled, and it transformed his whole face. I'm the family anomaly, went to USF, studied environmental management, got the county gig. My dad's coming around to it, though. We're getting there. What's this thing with you being in emergency management? It's not really the job, Marco said carefully. It's more about me being. In general, I think. He's working on it, like I said. But he came to my graduation. And he's proud when the hurricanes hit and people talk about how the county handled evacuations. So, the eye of the hurricane passed over about an hour later. People in the medical center gathered at windows and watched the wind simply stop. Dead calm. The sun, briefly visible through the smoke. Then the backside hit, and wind came screaming from the opposite direction, even more violent than before. We should check on the rest of your crew, Marco said. I should verify the neighborhood shelters all have power. It's still bad out there. Yeah, he agreed. But people still need help. We left the medical center and went back into it. The next 8 hours were a blur of site checks, welfare confirmations, and tactical firefighting. Marco's handheld emergency radio became my guide through the chaos. I'd get reports that a shelter needed water or medical supplies. Marco would coordinate delivery. Fire would jump a containment line. I'd radio coordinates to my crew and to Marco's incident command post. The hurricane was still present, still dangerous, but we had framework. We had purpose. We had each other tracking the same crisis from different angles. Around hour 18 of the hurricane, I found myself at a command post inside the medical center's administrative building, getting a briefing on storm surge damage assessment. Marco was there looking like he hadn't slept in 2 days, which he probably hadn't, marking up a damage map with a highlighter. You should rest, I said. So should you. He didn't look up from the map. You've been pushing people and equipment for 16 hours. I'm trained for it. So am I. He did look up then, but I'm also aware that I should probably tell you something before we both completely exhausted and I lose my nerve. What's that? He set the highlighter down, put his hands on the table like he was steadying himself. I'm gay. I haven't told you that directly, and given that you've been incredibly ... extraordinary ... the last 16 hours, and given that I keep looking at you when I think you're not paying attention, I figured you should probably know before you get the wrong idea about why I keep wanting to be in your immediate vicinity. I was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm also gay. He laughed, a real surprising laugh that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside. Oh, thank God. That makes this significantly less awkward. Less awkward how? Well, when I ask if you want to get coffee after this disaster is completely over, like when the hurricane has finished its trajectory and the city has stopped actively catastrophizing, you can say yes without me spending weeks wondering if you re-straight and just very committed to emergency procedures. I smiled. Is that a question? It's an intention statement. I'm not asking right now because I'm too exhausted to be charming and you too exhausted to actually enjoy coffee. But after the hurricane report is filed and the debris is cleared and we no longer operating on adrenaline and survival, he held my eyes. I'd like to take you to dinner. Not at my family's restaurant because my dad would turn it into an event, but somewhere in a bore, somewhere nice. Okay, I said. Yeah. After the hurricane, I'll get dinner with you. He went back to his damage map with a small smile that he clearly thought I was unnoticing, but I was. I absolutely was. The hurricane moved on. It took 2 days for the eye to fully pass and the wind to finally drop below dangerous levels. When it did, the real work began: debris removal, damage assessment, community welfare checks. I worked shifts, clearing fire-damaged areas and verifying evacuation points. Marco worked shifts, coordinating the recovery efforts from emergency management. We texted between shifts. Ridiculous things like the trash piles are definitely sentient, and someone brought their entire garage to the shelter as an emergency evacuation necessity, and I'm eating cafeteria food for hour 12 and I'm starting to hallucinate flavor profiles. At hour 48 of post-hurricane operations, I got a message, done in 2 hours. There's a restaurant called Estella's in Ybor. 19 o'clock. Please say yes because I'll be extremely disappointed if you say no. I say yes. Don't regret this. He sent back immediately. I didn't. Helios was small and warm and had the kind of lighting that made everyone look like they were in a movie. Marco showed up in clean clothes for the first time since we'd met. Hair done, that precise attention to detail that had characterized his evacuation coordination now applied to his appearance. He looked like he could break hearts and also tell you exactly where the nearest emergency shelter was, which is to say, he looked perfect. Hi, he said, sitting across from me. I smell like sleep. This is what sleep smells like. I'm very excited about it. You look good, I said. You look like someone who has spent 48 hours on active firefighting operations but is still somehow attractive, he replied. This is unfair. Life is unfair. Tell me something else that's true, he said. And I realized he was quoting what I'd asked him in the hurricane. Something other than, I fought a wildfire during a Category 4 hurricane. I grew up in a house with my mom and my grandmother. My dad left when I was 3. My grandmother never remarried. She just decided her family needed her more than a relationship did. And I spent my whole childhood watching her choose people, my mom, me, eventually my cousin's kids over and over again. I think I became a firefighter because of her, because she never made a big deal about it. But she was the most heroic person I knew. In the quiet way, Marco listened like I was the only person in the restaurant. Like the hurricane had passed, and the world was still, and I was saying something that mattered. My dad came to this country from a small town outside of Naples, he said slowly. He worked in restaurants for 15 years, saved money, opened Di Benedetto's with my mom. They have a good marriage. It's very traditional. They have roles, expectations. My dad's role didn't include having a gay son. He traced the rim of his water glass. But last week, after the hurricane, after I got everyone evacuated, after I coordinated the response briefing, my dad showed up at the shelter, just appeared. Brought food my mom had prepared, he helped distribute it, and he sat with me for 10 minutes and didn't say anything except "I am proud of you." And that felt like he was saying something else too, something bigger. Do you think he knows? About the reason you wanted to get dinner with me? I think he suspects I'm interested in men. Yes. Marco looked up. Do you think your grandmother would have liked me? She would have asked if you eat your vegetables and if you were kind to people who unhelp you. Then she would have decided if you were acceptable based on those criteria alone. Would I have passed? I watched you wade through hurricane water to save strangers. I watched you refuse to leave people behind. So yeah, you would have passed. We talked through dinner, through dessert. Through the restaurant, a evening crowd thinning out, and the owner gently suggesting we might want to move to the bar if we wanted to keep talking. We moved to the bar and ordered drinks and kept going. Tell me about the worst day you've had as a firefighter, Marco asked. 2016, Bristow Fire. Wildland unit went into a containment with the intention of protecting a residential neighborhood. 3 of my crew got caught by a backburn. I was on the other side of the fire line and couldn't reach them. They got out. They lived. No permanent injuries, but there was a window where I didn't know if they would. I looked at him. I never looked at the same again after that. Stopped assuming people were going to be fine. What's the best day? That's when I said and meant it entirely. He reached across the bar and took my hand. Okay. Yeah. You and me. This. I want to do this. I want to see where it goes. Even though I smell like smoke, and probably will for 6 more weeks. I like how you smell. And I like how you think. And I like how you move like you're always 2 steps ahead, always thinking about who needs help first. He squeezed my hand. I like you. I like you too. When he kissed me at the end of the night in the parking lot, tasting like rum and lime from mojitos, with the humid Tampa night wrapping around us like we de-stepped into the humidity itself when he kissed me, it felt like the storm had cleared completely. 3 months later, the post-hurricane recovery work stretched through the fall. Debris removal, community rebuilding, structural damage assessments for insurance. But somewhere in the middle of all that, Marco and I stopped just grabbing coffee between shifts and started having actual dates. He took me to his family's restaurant, and his dad made a special sauce and didn't mention anything but just kept checking if I liked it. His mom asked questions about my family. His grandmother appeared from the kitchen at one point and told me I was acceptable, which apparently meant I was never getting rid of her. I took Marco to meet my family at one of the community events my grandmother organized every month. She immediately decided he was the person who'd been missing from my life and started feeding him and asking him questions about environmental policy. My mom and I exchanged looks, the look that meant this one is serious, isn't he? I didn't even deny it. We moved through the seasons together. Hurricane season ended. Winter came soft to Tampa, barely crisp, more put on a light jacket than Arctic freeze. We took a day off, both of us, something we never did simultaneously, and we went to Clearwater Beach and walked in the water and didn't talk about storms or fires or evacuations. We just existed in the same space, and let that be enough. On Christmas Eve, Marco came to my apartment with a small wrapped box. We weren't big gift givers. We were both firefighter responder types, meaning we didn't really need things, but he'd been planning something. Inside the box was a GPS tracker, a real one, the kind emergency responders use. It's not romantic, Marco said, sitting on my couch. I know that. But I spent enough of our first interaction not knowing where you were, if you were okay, if you were going to survive. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to know where you are, and I want you to know where I am. Not in a controlling way, just in the person I love is safe, and I can verify it way. You love me? I'd known, but hearing it said directly was different. Yeah, he was looking at me with that same intensity he'd had during the evacuation, that focus that said I was the most important problem to solve. I love you. I love that you save people. I love that you think about them first. I love that your grandmother approved of me. I love how you look when you sleep. I love you. I kissed him, probably badly because I was also saying I love you too into his mouth. And it was less elegant than his declaration and more desperate, but it was honest. That night, wrapped up in the non-romantic GPS tracker and very much in each other. We fell asleep to the sound of Tampa's mild winter breeze through the apartment windows. Not a hurricane, not a disaster, just wind, just weather, just the two of us. Don't ever do what you did in that hurricane again, I mumbled into his shoulder. Refuse to leave people behind? Yes, that was terrifying. He laughed against my hair. I didn't plan it, it just happened. Some things can't be planned. Like meeting your person in the middle of a disaster. It's like that, he agreed. Like meeting someone who moves like they're reprotecting you even when they don't know you yet. It's like finding your person and getting to keep them. 6 months later, bought a small house together in Seminole Heights, 3 blocks from where we'd met in the evacuation. It needed work, hurricane damage, water stains on the ceiling, a roof that would need replacement. But it had potential. It had a foundation. And it had the two of us, which felt like enough. On the 1-year anniversary of Hurricane Helios, Marco took me back to the community center where we'd started coordinating the evacuation. They'd rebuilt it. The water line was marked on the wall, about waist high on where I was standing. They'd built it up higher this time, reinforced it, made it more hurricane-proof. Remember asking me to tell you something true? Marco asked, holding my hand in the parking lot where the water had been. I remember. I'm still terrified sometimes. Of weather. Of emergencies. Of the fact that my job means sometimes I do and know if people are going to survive the night. He squeezed my hand. But I'm less terrified because I know you're out there. Because I know that no matter how bad it gets, there's someone who won't leave people behind, and that's everything. I feel the same way about you, I said. He kissed me there in the parking lot, 1 year to the day from when we'd met, with the sun setting pink and orange over Tampa and no hurricanes in the forecast. Just weather. Just normal, manageable weather. Just love. Security footage from Estella's restaurant in Ybor City. The 2 men sitting at the same corner table where they had their first dinner. Between them on the table, an open ring box containing a simple band. And Marco's hand is on top of Ryan's. The restaurant owner, Estella herself, is taking a photo.
Oh.
In the background, Christmas lights. The foreground, a love that survived a hurricane and chose to stay.